Sue here from slowideas.com. I want to make another basic sewing skills video, and today I'm going to talk about some basic tips for sewing safely, because you do not want to hurt yourself while you're making beautiful things. Tip 1, give yourself good working space. That means sufficient light, it means sufficient elbow room around what you're doing. You do not want to be crammed in to your space. Cat's optional, of course. I can't get her to stop, so we're just making this video. This isn't ideal where my machine is at an angle. This is only for the video. Normally I sew with my machine on a separate table and I have it square on to what I'm doing with my machine underneath. I try as much as possible to use good ergonomics as part of my working space, which means making things right angle and having my foot pedal right underneath the table so my foot can rest on it gently. Number 2, only go as fast as you feel in control. And that includes when you start sewing. When you come to your machine, you don't have to have your hair done and your face powdered like that stupid meme that everyone sent me. I don't know why. Stop sending me that thing about sewing in the 50s. A, it's a hoax. B, it's done. So only go as fast as you feel in control. So that means only stitch as fast as you feel like you can keep up with your machine. My first sewing machine had 2 speeds, ridiculously fast and backwards, so I was very grateful when my dad gave me this one for Christmas, the same year that I borrowed his machine and took it to Calgary with me. So I tend to go fairly quick, but I know this machine and I know my foot pedal, and I know how fast I can go and remain in control of my fabric. So part of not going too fast, it might help if you don't wear shoes. Shoes add weight to your foot on the pedal, which of course will make you drive faster. You do not want to be a lead foot when you're sewing. You want to have a nice delicate foot and be able to take off the speed quickly, and you don't really care about acceleration all that much. So next step, keep your fingers out of the way. I haven't personally run over a finger in sewing, but I've come really darn close and I know people who've done it. So when I'm sewing, I might get things set up and have my fingers in there, but when it's time to put my foot on the pedal, which I do not keep my foot on the pedal until I'm ready to sew. I take it off and then I put it back on again when I'm ready to sew, as I'll use pretty much anything stick-like. A clothes peg, a pressing stick, the ends of my scissors. If I'm really pressed, a pin will do it and get right under that presser foot, but not directly under your needle, because that's the next step. Do not sew over your pins. Just don't. So I always keep my pins aligned in the direction of the fabric and well out of the seam area so that I'm not running a risk of running over them. Some people prefer to pin like that so they can pull the pins out from the side as they go. You know, your mileage may vary, but I'm just telling you, do not sew over your pins. There's a couple of reasons why you don't sew over pins. One, your needle hits that square on, it's gonna break. Your needle is a sharp pointy metal thing. It's gonna fly at you. I have had a needle fragment hit me there, and I'm very glad that I was not slouching a little bit more. Did I mention ergonomics? You wanna sit up straight when you're sewing. So you don't want to sew over pins. Even if it doesn't break the needle, it may bend the needle somewhat. It can also force the needle to move to the forward or the back and to hit part of the needle plate underneath. That can create a dent or a ridge in the needle plate, and that messes your machine up no end. Trust me, I've had to take my machine into the shop multiple times because of what's called burrs on the throat plate. That actually leads to the next step, the next tip, which is let your machine do the feeding. So you don't want to be pushing the fabric in. You also don't want to be holding it back and trying to stretch it as you sew. You just want to let the machine pull the fabric along as the feed dogs do. Your hands are there away from the throat plate to guide your fabric, but not to push it and not to pull it back. Because pushing or pulling it back can lead to, once again, that needle being pulled out of position and hitting the throat plate, either breaking and hurting you or messing up your machine for a really long time. So let's see, I've covered that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. Oh yeah, the 6th step, don't drink and sew. It's just like drinking and driving. You drink, you sew, you make mistakes, you end up with a needle through your finger. That's about it for tonight, folks. Now that I've finished making my video, now I can drink.